Welcome. I'm Kulina Casa, satmom.com, satmom.com. This video is the story of the clan mother of the seventh moon cycle, the July moon, loves all things. So this lunation this year starts on June 23rd in 2025. But this is for the July moon every year, the seventh moon cycle. This is the indigenous art of the clan mother of the seventh moon, the July moon, loves all things. Mother, show me how to love beyond my human fear. Touch me all the joy, teach me all the joys of life. Let the joys touch me behind the veil of tears. Let me find the pleasure of a lover's gentle hands. Let me know the wisdom of respect without demands. O keeper of forgiveness, teach me how to see beyond the petty judgments, supporting human dignity. I will learn your medicine, O mother, lover, friend, teaching others how to love and broken hearts mend. Loves all things is the clan mother of the seventh moon cycle in the month of July. The color connected with her medicine is yellow, and her cycle represents loving the truth found in all life forms. She teaches us the wisdom of compassion and how to be a loving woman and nurturing mother. Loves all things is the keeper of sexual wisdom and shows us that every action of physical life is as sacred as our spiritual growth because they are the same. When we behave as if all acts are sacred, there is no judgment. This clan mother teaches us how to love our bodies and to honor the pleasures of being human. She shows us that breathing, eating, walking, playing, working, observing the sunrise, making love, and dancing are all acts of pleasure given by the Earth Mother to human beings. She asks us to do everything in life with a happy heart. In her wisdom, loves all things, teaches us that we can find the joys of physical life without trying to escape our pain through becoming addicted to false pleasures or compulsive behavior patterns. Loves all things is the guardian of unconditional love and is connected to grandfather's sun. Like grandfather's sunlight, which shines on everything without holding warmth or life-giving withholding warmth or life-giving sustenance, this clan mother loves all her children equally. Loves all things uses a form of unconditional love to show us that she does not judge our behaviors. She is willing to love us enough to allow us to go through the hard self-imposed lessons that are the consequences of following the crooked trail. Having to experience the consequences of our unloving actions may not give us pleasure, but remembering and avoiding these pitfalls in the future will always bring us back into balance. This clan mother holds the wisdom of allowing and does not smother her children or impose rigid rules. She uses her ability to allow us to go through the hard life lessons on our own, but is always waiting to nurture our disappointments and mend our broken hearts. Loves all things teaches that every action in life is equal because the reaction is equal to the original deed. If we are good to our bodies are healthy and good to us. If we nurture and respect ourselves, we will command the same respect and nurturing from others. If we lie to ourselves, others will lie to us in kind. If we think positive thoughts, good things will happen to support our attitudes. If we apply the love of truth to all things, we find ways to know and love the self. This clan mother instructs us in a way that applies the concept of free will in its purest form. Her foremost understanding is that we will evolve no matter what happens. Healing and growth may take many cycles of the medicine wheel, but she is willing to love us unconditionally through all those rites of passage until we love ourselves enough to break the patterns of self induced slavery. The freedom found in loving the self without conditions is the talent that makes loves all things the guardian of children. She allows children to develop loving self expression, encouraging them to be their personal best. This clan mother uses the child's love of discovering life as the guideline for raising the young. She teaches the child within us to accept love, to give love, to find ways to love ourselves, and to love the truth above all else. Loves all things is the mother nurturer, a sensual lover, the keeper of all acts of pleasure, and the guardian of sexual wisdom. This clan mother embodies the attributes of the devoted friend who sees the strength of our personal medicine as well as our weaknesses, accepting both sides without judgment. Patiently, she supports us in our growth process by pointing to our talents, urging us to grow. Loves all things and ignores our unwillingness to use the talents we have at hand because she understands that one day on our personal healing paths, we will find it ourselves. The sacredness of love. Loves all things felt a warm shudder move up her body when she relaxed into the light of grandfather sun. It felt wonderful to gather that golden warmth into herself and to let her body absorb the goodness of grandfather's son's unconditional love. Loves all things turned the palms of her hands upward to collect the sunbeams as if they were the amber nectar from precious tropical flowers. While the water spirits of the running water sang her a song, she was reminded of the multitude of simple pleasures that could be experienced in a human body. The bubbling rush of water, undulating over the round stones in its path, gurgled a continuous greeting. An occasional spray of tiny water droplets showered her feet with new sensations, while she took in every perception her human sensors could encompass. Loves all things smelled the rich perfume of wet soil at the river's edge, mixed with many fragrances of wild flowers and blooming herbs. The faint scent of wild green onions came from the shaded woods behind her. Coming from the shaded woods behind her reminded her of the many savory foods the earth mother freely offered. The smell of moist fallen leaves in the undergrowth carried with it the faint odor of blooming berry and grapevines, promising an abundant time of gathering during the ripening moons. She reveled in the perpetual goodness that being human offered. Loves all things opened her eyes a crack to gaze at the sunlight and the rainbow prisms it reflected through the lattice created by her eyelashes. The brilliant, effervescent colors danced around her line of vision, giving yet another pleasure to enjoy. She could see the reflections of colors caught in the moisture of the perspiration on her skin. She noticed that water, like feelings, could reflect any subtle nuance in the changing play of light and shadow. She remembered how she had been amazed by the extensive and varied sensations she had encountered when she first embodied her human female form. She had been like Hummingbird then, tasting everything that the flowers of human experience offered, flitting from one to another in total delight. Once she had watched Hummingbird dart and taste all the different nectars he found flowering in a woodland meadow. She decided that the world was to be savored with the same joy. Those early days had taught her the medicine that Hummingbird offered, and that the same attitude of love and joy had continued to shape every experience in her earth walk. Loves all things silently sent her thanks to the smallest of all winged creatures who hummed the song of letting the joys of life chase away negativity and fear. Lost in her feelings, the relaxed clan mother barely noticed that she was following the colors of a sunbeam through her eyelashes and into a sparkling set of memories that reminded her of the joys and the trials she had discovered on the good red road. She remembered how she had been initiated into sexuality, learning the pleasures of coupling in a field of corn poppies and soft green moss. The day had been a warm one, filled with the sounds of her own pounding heart and the calls of thrushes and larks. The birds were circling, then diving into the meadow to feast on wild grass seeds and grains. She was walking next to a man who had touched her heart deeply during the past few moons. Together they explored the surrounding foothills and shared many fires. He had protected her and provided their fires with food to cook and had shown her the respect due a female. This man knew that every woman was an extension of the Earth Mother and that to harm a woman in any way could bring the consequences of scarcity to all the children of Earth. This man knew that every woman was an extension of the Earth Mother and that to harm a woman in any way could bring the consequences of scarcity to all the children of Earth. That night, the night before, as they sat by a fire, he had spoken to her of the responsibility of pleasuring a woman in a way that would teach and preserve the joys of coupling. Love's All Things had discovered that being near this man brought many new and curious feelings. Her body would react in the strangest ways if their hands should inadvertently touch or if their eyes should meet. She did not know how to gauge the flood of emotions or the rush of blood that would set her face on fire. She was innocent of the quickening drumbeat of her heart and the warm gush of heat coursing up her thighs. Feathered Dog, the man at her side, was very different from the other men she had encountered. None of them had ever made her feel this way. The attraction she felt for Feathered Dog gave her a sense of longing and excitement, but she did not know how to deal with the flood of emotions that overwhelmed her when she was with him. Some feelings were extremely pleasurable, and others bordered on aching pains of longing. She was confused because she did not understand what she was longing for. Sometimes it was difficult to breathe when he placed his arm over her shoulder or smiled when looking deep into her eyes. The mating dance had lasted 3 moons, leaving Love's All Things enthralled with the sensuality of touching and feeling nurtured. The pitch of intimacy had grown during that time as she and Feathered Dog had shared their innermost thoughts, but not their sleeping robes. Today, in the field of corn poppies that radiated all the salmon rose colors of a newborn sun, she would open herself to her man in a new way. Feathered Dog had earned his name because he carried the medicine of feather, symbolizing a messenger of spirit, and Dog, who had taught the value of serving humankind with loyalty. This man embodied the 3 medicines needed in any relationship: respect, trust, and intimacy. Feathered Dog understood the importance of building a strong foundation of mutual respect that then gives birth to trust. He knew that when trust and respect are present in any relationship, intimacy and the sharing of one's heart's desires can bloom, rooted in fertile ground. Feathered Dog understood the importance of building a strong foundation of mutual respect that then gives birth to trust. He knew that when trust and respect are present in any relationship, intimacy and the sharing of heart's desires can bloom, rooted in fertile ground. In this wisdom, Feathered Dog had allowed Love's All Things the time she needed to experience building this foundation for their relationship. From this strong and caring base of togetherness, the sexual attraction had naturally evolved. Love's All Things recalled every gentle caress of that day long ago and relived the beauty and sacredness of that first coupling. She had been given a gift that was the Earth Mother's desire for all her children, discovering the pleasures of human sexuality without guilt, fear, or pain. Over the next few years, Love's All Things and Feathered Dog shared all of the joyous pleasures of life and love in their mated union. The happy experiences shared with her mate and the birthing of their children had taught Loves All Things the joys of nurturing and being nurtured. Through the sexual rites of passage shared with Feathered Dog, she had become the keeper of sexual wisdom. Through mothering their offspring, she had rediscovered the world through the eyes of her children. The mother of the wonder of life and the excitement of being alive had allowed her to master the art of being a warm and sensual woman and a nurturing, understanding mother. Her heart filled with overflowing love as she remembered the goodness life had given her through her daughter and three strong sons. Saying goodbye to Feathered Dog had been difficult when he passed into the spirit world. She experienced more pain when she buried her children and their children after watching them all grow old while she still carried a body that did not age. Loves All Things had developed a resentment during those passing winters that brought forth one of her hardest lessons in human life. The Earth Mother had never said that any of the 13 aspects of herself would find being human an easy task. But Loves All Things had conveniently forgotten the consequences of having a human body that did not die. She resented the fact that she was left to enjoy the pleasures of being human while she buried her loved ones, and they went to live on the other side, in the other side camp of the spirit world. The clan mother was tested time and again when her resentment would thwart the feelings of joy that she could have experienced had she given the negativity away. She found it hard to love the truth that she was immortal, and harder still to love the life around her while she was grieving the love she had shared in the past. Loves All Things wanted her family back. She wanted to recapture the playful medicine of her daughter, Little Otter, to fill those lonely times with when the shadow of resentment darkened her path. The Earth Mother spoke to Loves All Things, reminding her of the medicine carried by Otter, her daughter's namesake. The clan mother was not ready to reclaim the balanced woman's medicine of being an adult who was young at heart, playing or working with the same innocence and delight. She could not see the value of reclaiming the balance needed in her life by accepting what had passed and, like a child, deciding to live in the happiness of the present. Loves All Things was focused on all the love she had felt and she had lost, forgetting to notice the gifts of renewal and abundance she had been offered through the Earth Mother's wisdom. Loves All Things found herself judging all acts of life as never being enough to fill the growing hole in her heart. She insisted on living in the past and forgot the joy she had once found in being alive. She marched for many suns and sleeps to visit the sea where she intended to share her salty tears of regret and remorse with the ocean. Once she arrived at the home of endless water, she tossed herself into the brine, wanting to die, forgetting that this too was impossible. As her body sank beneath the frothy waves, she was stung by eel, making her humiliation complete. Dragging herself to the sandy dunes, she screamed in pain and started to accuse herself of all the victim-like tendencies she had gathered during her shadowy passage through sorrow. Loves All Things began blaming herself for never growing old. She blamed her family for being human. She blamed the Earth Mother. She blamed the Earth Mother for giving her the experiences of pleasure, and now this intolerable pain. She ranted and raved, sending her disgust and revolution to the four winds as she cried out in her anger. The growing red welt on her leg where eel had stung her reflected the rage she was feeling toward herself and toward the world. She was furious that such love and such pleasure had carried any consequences. Loves All Things had intended to live life seeking nothing but ultimate happiness. There was not supposed to be another upsetting side to human experience, Life with pain was not fair. She was helplessly unable to stop the sorrowful existence she abhorred, even by trying to take her own life. Lost in her own misery, Loves All Things noticed nothing around her until a gale brought crashing waves and the sound of the thunderbird's wings slammed her back into the moment. Hino, the thunder chief, had sent the thunder with his clapping rolls of thunder to teach Loves All Things how her own feelings had affected the balance in nature. She heard the voice of Hino as he bellowed into her ears. Daughter, you have created these icy winds because your heart has grown cold. You have forsaken your name and brought your own wrath to bear on the other children of earth who depend on you for love and nurturing. In your anger, you have created a storm that will send many to their deaths, and yet you have learned nothing of the scarcity you bring when you refuse to love. You too must weather the storm that you have brought forth, and you must see for yourself the kind of pain you have created inside your body and how that pain can harm the natural world. As soon as Hino's voice faded, Loves All Things was struck by a crashing wave of water that dragged her body into the raging sea. Down she went, being tumbled and rolled by the onslaught of pummeling waves. Spinning amid the currents, being tossed to and fro, she slipped into the darkness of her own consciousness and self pity. The last thing she remembered was that something was very, very wrong. The burning sensation in her leg and the unpleasant smell of rotting flesh brought Loves All Things to her senses. She struggled to get her stomach under control, but retched anyway. Salt water poured from her mouth as she felt her insides knot and release time and again. When she could finally prop herself up on a nearby boulder, she was amazed by the wreckage around her. The beach was covered with the bodies of all sorts of creatures who had died in the storm. Silent tears etched their way down her cheeks as Love All Things took in the horror of her own creation. The wreckage in front of her was wrought by her compulsive self pity. She had come to a place within herself where she hated who and what she was. After Feathered Dog had died, she had fed her self pity by taking lovers whom she did not love. She had used them for the pleasure they could give her. She had broken some hearts along the way and had fallen into projecting her own pain onto others by denying how her actions were literally destroying all of the lessons of respect, trust, and intimacy that had been her mate's medicine. Now she had come to this piteous ebb, the beach filled with broken bodies, littering the sands around her. As she touched the angry welt on her leg, Eel's voice filtered through the lapping waves, reaching her waterlogged senses. Loves all things, listen to me. Hear me with your heart. I am the conductor of love. This is my medicine. The electric bolts of my sting were not meant to harm you. The shock was necessary to show you that sometimes, through pain, love can be reclaimed. If you will accept my medicine, I may be able to help you. Why would anyone want to help me, Eel? I have nearly destroyed myself and all those whom I pledged to love before I came to walk the earth. Eel replied, I have not forgotten the true meaning of love, mother. It knows no boundaries, finds no faults, and waits not on time to make it right. The fire of grandfather sun mixes with the water of the earth mother inside of me. I choose to be the conductor of the unconditional love of both. Can't you accept their love and mine? Loves all things sobbed and nodded, feeling like she was being given the opportunity to come home to who she really was. The clan mother fully realized that she had punished herself and everyone around her while she walked with the shadow. More than anything, she now wanted to reclaim the love, releasing the darkness of blame and fear. Eel felt the change in the clan mother's heart and continued to speak. Loves all things. To reclaim the abundance you once had in your life, you must cross a bridge that you created between the shadow side of your nature and your loving heart. The bridge may appear to you like a rainbow because it reflects all of the beautiful colors found in life. The bridge is made of forgiveness and spans the abyss of human fear, bitterness, hatred, and jealousy. Those hurtful emotions are adopted when the heart is broken in order to mask the pain. You must cross the bridge willingly. To make that journey, you must drop all negative judgments and or blame you have about yourself and or any other person, place, event, location, or idea that you have ever experienced. Love's all things mind was suddenly flooded with the memories of blame, shame, regret, wrongdoing, and senseless pain she had caused herself and others. Forgiving all those things would be an unbelievably challenging task, but she realized she must start somewhere to reclaim the love that had once been her guiding light. She spent many suns and sleeps walking by the seaside, washing away the shadowy side of her nature. She felt every emotion without letting herself be drawn into them again. Slowly, she observed a change in her sense of well being and practiced finding something she could love about herself and the world around her. Slowly, she observed a change in her sense of well-being and practiced finding something she could love about herself and the world around her. She whispered words of thanksgiving every time she encountered a new breakthrough, destroying the chains of heartbreak that bound her to a lifeless existence. The began returning as she fortified each forward step in her healing process by thanking the great mystery for the gift of life. Her changed attitude toward the world around her brought back the vibrancy of the colors in nature that had come to seem so lackluster. When she swam beneath the waves, the coral reefs were treasure troves of creatures who sought her company, reflecting the rainbow colors of the bridge that forgiving had created in her life. As she reached out to life once again, the 8 arms of octopus taught her that she was enveloped with love in all directions, as long as she desired it. The purple ink the octopus sprayed into the waters to protect himself from preying marauders showed loves all things, that the color purple, representing gratitude and healing, was also her protection against the shadow's destructive nature. The color purple, representing gratitude and healing, was also her protection against the shadow's destructive nature. As long as she returned thanks for every healing step she took, the healing would continue. Every so often, a gray day would bring foggy memories into the path of the past into love's all things experience. At first, she resisted the thoughts that brought up the fear of her shadow side. But unlike her past solution, which was denying the existence of her troubled mind, she confronted the memories by finding ways she could have solved those past situations. Her newly developed skill of being grateful for every lesson in life kept her from returning to the reckless behavior that had once forced her to use pleasure as an escape, numbing everything into oblivion. Her newly developed skill of being grateful for every lesson in life kept her from returning to the reckless behavior that had once forced her to use pleasure as an escape, numbing everything into oblivion. Loves all things was learning to be accountable for her actions, realizing that every time she fed the positive side of a challenge by looking for ways to express her natural ability to love all experiences equally, she could easily find needed solutions. She noticed that the opposite, negative reaction would also make her accountable by throwing her into old feelings of unworthiness that made her want to run and hide from life. Soon the day came when Loves All Things was confident that she was ready to walk among her fellow human beings without reflecting her past upon them. She started out on her trek, moving through foothills and valleys, traversing forests and crossing streams. In the dawn light on the sixth sun of her journey, she woke to the sounds of thirsty deer taking a drink. Loves All Things intently watched Deer as she nudged her fawn towards the embankment of moss growing close to the brook. Loves All Things fought back the tears welling in her eyes as memories of little Otter, her daughter, surfaced in her mind. Her little girl had first learned to walk on moss-covered knolls near a brook very similar to the one in the clearing. Deer felt the clan mother's anguish and turned, speaking to Loves All Things. You are the mother of all acts of pleasure, Loves All Things, and yet you have forgotten to be gentle with yourself. You would be kind and caring to me and my fawn, but you are merciless toward yourself. We creatures have heard of your torment and of your healing, and we have rejoiced in your progress. I was sent to cross your path, reminding you of the tender and sensitive gentleness of my medicine, not so that you will apply that comforting calmness to others, but so you will stop being so hard on yourself. In all ways but one, you are human. The fact that you will not experience the aging and death of your body does not mean that you have to push yourself beyond the capacities of other humans. Sweet mother, there is no fault in being human. Your feelings will always be part of you. They will never vanish, but it is not wrong to touch them from time to time with gentleness. You have crossed the bridge of forgiveness, and now you must rediscover the way to be gentle with yourself. Finding the balance between strength and gentleness is a delicate matter. You may call on my medicine anytime you need me, said Deer. With those words, Deer and Fawn were gone. The forest enveloped them, leaving Loves All Things to her thoughts. The words spoken by Deer had bolstered the clan mother's resolve to find the tenderness with herself that she needed in order to carry on. In gentleness, Loves All Things sent her words of thanksgiving to all her creature children and to the great mystery. Then she washed in the stream, ate some berries, and looked toward the pathway, starting her trek once again. 2 moons later, she reached an encampment of 2 legends who were busy demonstrating all of the hurtful actions that humans could inflict on one another. She reached an encampment of 2-leggeds. She realized that her time with them would test everything she had learned. This lesson in life would provide Loves All Things with the opportunity to walk through the final rite of passage of loving the truth in all things. As the keeper of forgiveness, she would be called upon to show these members of the Earth tribe how to heal their hearts. The challenge of completing the task that had been placed in her path brought up fleeting thoughts of wanting to run from her mission, but instead she gave thanks for this opportunity for growth. Every time a member of this band of humans tried to pass rumors to the clan mother about someone else, she countered with a comment about the positive nature or traits of the person being talked about. When someone was feeling dejected, she was the first to show gentleness and loving encouragement. When a man was on the rampage, spitting anger at those nearest to him, she chased the clouds away by teaching how all anger is really directed at the self. Forgiving the self for being human or for depending on another to do the things one should have taken care of on his or her own usually dissolve the anger instantly. Winters passed and new generations of this tribe were born, learning the gifts of forgiveness, gentleness, and love that Loves All Things freely offered. Loves All Things traveled to different clans and tribes, sharing the experiences of her earth walk and the wisdom she had gathered through her healing process. She taught young women to respect their bodies and to nurture their children. She shared the lessons of sacred sexuality, respect, trust, and intimacy with the young men, who would then use their understanding of sexual wisdom in relationships to form lasting bonds with their mates. The mother nurturer taught the children how to enjoy the pleasures of being human by loving the coldness on their feet when standing in a mountain stream, or by savoring the steaming aroma of hot stew as much as its delicious flavors. The censors were to be honored and respected because those skills of perception gave humankind the pleasures of life. Through example loves all things, showed her human children that every aspect of physical life was sacred when it was approached in a loving and meaningful way. Nothing having to do with sexuality was judged as dirty or wrong by the keeper of sexual wisdom. The mother of all acts of pleasure taught that the functions of the human body were honored natural processes that kept the body healthy and full of life. She showed the young adults the way male bonding bodies gave them the genitals and received through the heart. She showed the young adults the way male bodies gave from the genitals and received through the heart, and how the female body received through the genitals and gave from the heart. Interesting. She showed the young adults the way male bodies gave from the genitals and received through the heart, and how the female body received through the genitals and gave from the heart. When a female and a male stood face to face, this process of giving and receiving created a circle between the two. If one or the other was cold, unfeeling, or afraid, the circle was not allowed to complete itself. When this type of disconnection occurred, it was time to find out which of these 3 points of respect, trust, and intimacy had been lost. For the circle of sexual sharing between male and female to be restored, both partners had to be willing to open themselves to giving and receiving. The sacred bond could only be achieved if mutual respect, trust, and intimacy formed the foundation that supported their love. Loves All Things taught her children that coupling was a physical form of communication between humans that represented the male and female sides of each individual. If the individual was unhappy with himself or herself, that feeling was then used to fracture the person's internal sense of wholeness, forming a barrier to the sharing that could be experienced with another. Through loving the self and through forgiveness, healing the heart's hurts could take place. When one was able to forgive the self, it was much easier to forgive others for insensitive words or unconscious actions. Loves All Things reviewed her own path of joy, pain, and self-destruction, and ultimately forgiveness and healing. Every time she watched another human being go through similar lessons, each time she saw herself in another, the reassuring pleasure of being able to direct her energy into a positive fashion came forth. She had become a healed healer through facing her shadow with love. She had become a healed healer through facing her shadow with love. Then she learned to love the truth found in every lesson in life. She had learned to love the part of herself that had driven her nearly to destruction. She could own her name now because she did love all things. She had put aside the shadow's need to be critical of the self and others, and had donned the ability to love the truth in every person, on every spoke of the wheel of life. She had gained the compassion of a once tormented woman who had loved and lost, nearly losing herself in the process. She had walked in the moccasins of every broken-hearted two-legged who had been hardened by pain, and through experience, she had learned to reclaim the precious gift of love. Loves All Things had learned that salty tears were the beginnings of transformation, that through those droplets of anguish, the waters of forgiveness begin to flow. The clan mother of the 7th moon cycle had come to understand that healing begins with forgiving the self for the could have beens and the should have beens found on the good red road. Compassion was born from the hurts of the clan mother's life, and in gently finding compassion for herself, her healing was accomplished. The road back from her pain and into the light of love had been a long one, but the restored pleasure she found in life was worth the effort. The sounds of the river at her side brought her from her memories and helped her focus on the pleasurable warmth moving up her arms from her open hands. The rainbow colors of grandfather, son, filtering through her eyelashes, displayed curious images of human forms dancing. Loves all things felt a tug on her heart as she recognized Feathered Dog, Little Otter, and her three strong sons dancing in the rainbow lights. In her vision, the Earth Mother called to Love's all things, letting her know that her earth walk was complete. A deafening hum filled her ears, and she was floating over the river. When the clan mother looked down again, she caught her own reflection in the glassy waters of a still pond. She had become hummingbird and was flying on the streaming light of a sunbeam. Upward she traveled, traversing the deep cornflower blue of space until she passed through a flaming wall of fire, being propelled into the body of grandfather sun. The fire had burned away her hummingbird body, and once again she transformed into her female human form and found herself in the arms of Feathered Dog. As the circle of their love was made complete through the reunion of their hearts, the two lovers became one dazzling star. The burning star flew from grandfather's sun and took its place in the sky nation. For 6 moons, the star of love lights the twilight sky and is called the evening star, Venus. And then for the following 6 moons, the star of love appears at dawn and is called the morning star. Through the story of Love's All Things and Feathered Dog, we are enabled to see both sides of our natures. That wholeness is reflected in the bird of love and joy, who knows there is no separation in the human spirit except the illusions we oppose upon ourselves. Hummingbird hums now and flies in circles because he knows the lover's secret. To love all things is to love every reflection of who and what you are. Hummingbird hums now and flies in circles because he knows the lover's secret. To love all things is to love every reflection of who and what you are.